Hello there, time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the morning stories in the newspapers. Joining us are the Sun's Charlie Wyatt and Isan Khan from the Mail. Welcome to you both. We'll talk to you shortly. Let's quickly run through the back pages, starting with the Sun. On the back page, they've gone with the headline, Stars and Swipes. Tuchel saying, I've no problem leaving out big names. This comes, of course, after that 5-0 thrashing of Serbia. In the Daily Telegraph, Tuchel fires World Cup warning to missing stars. With so many players out injured during that Serbia game, the newcomers gave a very good account of themselves. In the Mirror, brave Chu World. Three Lions boss insists he'll keep on making big calls and won't be afraid to leave out star names. Where could that leave the likes of Jude Bellingham, who was out injured this time around? And inside the Telegraph, they make mention of the so-called Drug Olympics. Proud, first Briton to join Drug Olympics. This is after Ben Proud, the British Olympic swimmer, has chosen to take part in the Enhanced Games next year. So after England's international window has come to a close, 7 goals scored, none conceded. Charlie, we'll start with you and the fact that the Sun have said that after these news players that have come in that don't have all the experience of the likes of Cole Palmer and Jude Bellingham, who are missing this time around, he has no problem leaving out the so-called bigger names when it comes to starting 11s. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's definitely the right thing to say, and it would be music to the ears of all England fans, because I think in the past maybe they've felt that some players have been, always been a favourite. I think last night was a huge night for Thomas Tuchel, of course, but also for Noni Madueke and Morgan Rogers and Anthony Gordon, who played so well, who really took their chance. And of course, as you mentioned, there were some big players missing. There was Jude Bellingham is injured, Bukayo Saka and Cole Palmer. Let's not forget there's no John Stones, there was no Trent Alexander-Arnold, no Grealish, despite his encouraging start at Everton. There's no Phil Foden. Adam Walton was injured. So lots of players missing, lots of players that could be in the starting 11. But it was a real warning to these players now that they face a real fight to get back into certainly into the team. I think most of the big name players that I've just mentioned there would expect to be back into the squad. But, there's 2 more games. There's Wales next month, followed by a qualifier in Latvia. And, I can't believe that Thomas Tuchel wouldn't stick with those players. I don't think Jude Bellingham will necessarily be back from his shoulder injury. But, really encouraging. And, I think it's going to be a very interesting, October and November window.
Isan, is this a warning to a certain player, Thomas Tuchel, saying that he's not afraid to leave out the big names, or is he talking about a collective? I mean, how did you react to this?
Largely a collective, but when he says that, you do look at that attacking front line because of the plethora of options. Obviously, with the options they've got, that Bellingham, number 10, he's normally a shoo-in after the performance of Morgan Rogers, who, by all estimations, really shone and went above and beyond what you could expect of him, just coming in and hitting the ground, running. Obviously Elliot Anderson too, who's been an absolute revelation in these last few World Cup qualifiers for England. So Tuchel's in a very, very strong position here, and especially them attacking areas up top. There's so many options. Madueke, again, he's another name that's come into the fore because of Bukayo Saka's injury. It would have been absolutely off the radar to even be comparing Madueke with Saka just a few weeks ago, but the way Madueke played, Saka now knows that when he comes back, he will more than likely take that right wing spot, but he has to perform because those in reserve like Madueke are going to be chomping at the bit, and they are very much ready. And Tuchel seems to be open-minded, as we've seen in these last few games. He's rotated, used a variety of players, so he's still not certain in many positions across the pitch. He's still not decided who are his men. So for the players, it's very exciting that these spots are up for grabs, which in previous years it was a different equation.
Yeah, whether or not Tuchel meant it as calling out a particular player or the collective, Jason Burt in The Telegraph has used the headline, Bellingham no longer nailed on for starting 11. Charlie, I wonder, with Bellingham recovering from shoulder surgery and the fact that he might not still be available in October for the next international window, is there a chance that a starting England 11 at a major tournament doesn't feature Jude Bellingham?
Look, yeah, he's still one of the best, players in Europe. Let's not forget that. Not necessarily has had his sort of best games for England. He's had some, key moments for England, of course. Last year, particularly at the Euros. But I definitely think Tuchel was speaking generally. But equally, it's a tap on the shoulder for all these players, including Bellingham, knowing that when they come to England, they've got to play their best. And it's interesting because, Bellingham has been playing as a number 10. I don't think Thomas Tuchel is convinced of him playing as a number 8, which would mean Declan Rice switching back to number 6. As Issam mentioned, Elliot Anderson was, the revelation, really, of these last 2 games. He came in and looked, just so composed because the number 6 position is a problem area. And I know lots of people keep saying about the embarrassment of Riches in this squad. To a degree, in some positions, but other areas we are actually quite weak. So I think we have to be realistic. Number 6 is one of those positions that, left back, Miles Lewis-Skelly's, great talent coming through. Livramento did really well. I'd still go with Luke Shaw personally, and I reckon he's been playing well recently. He'll be back in the squad. People shouldn't write off players like John Stones. I know Gahey and Konsa played well together, but I think sometimes we're a bit too quick to pension off players. England still need experience, throughout the team. But yeah, I think to say that, every position we're really strong in terms of strength and depth, I actually think is wrong.
It's quite an assertive statement, isn't it, from Thomas Tuchel? And I wonder if that confidence that he's now speaking with comes off the back of the fact that they thrashed Serbia at 5-0 and he feels like now he has maybe a bit more authority. You were out there in Belgrade, Charlie. Did you sense that Tuchel feels now more empowered to speak out about these type of things?
He was definitely in a good mood after, but both at his post-match press conference and then, a separate interview he gave to the newspaper journalist, which has been published this evening. And he needed it, didn't he? England have been he'd been manager for 5 games previously, been underwhelming in all of them, and this was England's toughest test. This was England's toughest test actually since the final in Germany against Spain last year, and they were outstanding. The Serbs were weaker than we thought, but there were some good players for the home team. Serbia have never lost a game by that margin ever at home. So I think you've got to give England a lot of credit. So no wonder Thomas Tuchel was in a good mood afterwards. No wonder. Morgan Rogers, who spoke afterwards as well, really well. No wonder they were all in a really good mood. There was big relief on England because there was a lot of pressure on the manager, I think, and the players going into that game last night because a poor performance and a draw, and particularly a defeat, would have been really damaging considering how underwhelming the start of the Thomas Tuchel reign has been, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned Morgan Rogers. He was in a good mood, not just because of his performance, but because in his commentary, Roy Keane has compared him with the great Gaza Issam. I mean, is that a fair comparison? That's a lot of pressure to heap on a young boy's shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. It's still very early days to make a comparison like that. But just based on that, on the game against Serbia, some of them touched on absolutely exquisite. That assist for, I think it was Medweke that he played through. Some of his link-up play, that drive, that energy, that willingness to take the ball on and drive forward. You can see them comparisons to Gaz. Obviously, very early days. It's one individual performance there, but overall, it's very promising for England and Tuchel. You've got Rodgers there. There's a plethora of players in them attacking spots that can be easily interchangeable, and to give credit to Rodgers, he's taken his opportunities. There's been, as we know, injuries in the attacking areas, and all he can do is put in the best performance he can with the opportunity he got, and he took it. There's one thing getting a chance to play for England in a World Cup qualifying, it's another to actually make an impact and hit the ground running, and that's exactly what he did there.
Yeah, him and others. Now, I just want to turn our attentions to a story that's come out today. The Telegraph have covered this one, and the headline says, "Sacked Coote charged with making video of child abuse." Charlie, just summarise what's gone on here.
Yeah, David Coote has been charged with making an indecent video of a child. He lost his job with the PGMOL in December. That was following an investigation into a video showing him making derogatory comments about Jurgen Klopp. And he's now due to appear at Nottingham Magistrates tomorrow. The category A video of a child, that's the most serious. So, he will appear in Nottingham tomorrow.
Okay, something for us to keep an eye on. Charlie, Ihsan, thank you for the moment. We're going to take a quick break now, but when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Telegraph. Proud first Briton to join Drug Olympics. We'll be discussing that next. You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to The Sun's Charlie Wyatt and Ihsan Khan from The Mail. OK, let's talk Manchester United. Let's talk Andre Onana. In the back page of The Sun, Ihsan, the headline, Onana's exit fires rebuild. Article here by Steve Brenner saying that Ruben Amorim sees the departure of Onana as key to his rebuild at United. What do you make of this? Because Onana, for all to see, has struggled, hasn't he, in goal?
Struggling is to put it mildly. He's made some absolute terrible clangers at Manchester United. Of course, he's not been helped by that shaky back four in front of him. But some of the mistakes that he's made have been unforgivable for sure, and that's why he's been shipped off to Turkey, and they've got a young goalie now in Lemons who's come from Belgium to basically compete for this number one spot. That the whole goalkeeping situation at Manchester United for a while now has been an absolute mess. Not the only area of the team that's in pieces, but it must be said with Onana, some of his performances, there's clips upon clips of the mistakes that he's made, which at Premier League level is far from acceptable, especially a team like Manchester United who are struggling in general. The last thing they need is a goalkeeper behind them who they don't have full confidence in. So it wasn't a real surprise to see them facilitate a move away from the club for Onana. In terms of Manchester United future going forward, it looks very much bleak, it must be said.
Yeah, bleak is one way to describe it. I suppose, Charlie, in public, Ruben Amorim's been quite defensive of Andre Onana, but you just wonder perhaps in private that's not necessarily the case. How do you make of the way that Ruben Amorim's handled this whole situation?
Look, I think it's been difficult for him. I mean, there's the so-called, Man United bomb squad, and Amorim slowly, got rid of them. I don't think Onana really wanted to leave Manchester United, so he's certainly been sort of, bundled out the door. Equally, the pain of being kicked out of Old Trafford is, I think, going to be helped by the fact that in Turkey he's only going to have to pay 20% tax. So although Trabzonspor are sort of covering all the wages, he's going to end up getting more money because obviously he's going to be paying a lot less tax. So he's going to be there for a year. I think he's got a couple of years left on his contract, £100,000 a week. It's the right move by Manchester United. I always thought it was a strange signing anyway. Everything that Onana did for Man United in the Premier League happened previously in Serie A. Anyone that watched him in Serie A will not have been surprised by what happened at Manchester United. Poor recruitment, but not surprising considering the amount of poor recruitment United have done over the years. So let's hope that changes, and let's hope finally they can sort that goalkeeping situation out, because it has been a bit of a mess.
OK, let's turn our attentions now to the back page of the Mirror, where one of the characters of the Premier League season last campaign is back in management. Ange Postecoglou at the helm at Nottingham Forest. I will be a winner at Forest too, he says, Issand. So he says he always wins a trophy in his second season. But, I mean, trophy's up for grabs this season, isn't it, in the Europa League?
Possibly. Well, what I found quite interesting in his interview today was him reiterating about this attacking philosophy of his and how his doubters have often got it misconstrued about the way he plays. If I was a Nottingham Forest fan, I'd be slightly concerned by them comments. He doesn't seem to have learned from his attacking frailties, which saw Spurs finish 17th last season. Obviously, the Europa League final win over Manchester United, there was promise in that, in the fact that he did show pragmatism. He took off, he brought on Kevin Danso for an attacker later in the game. He was willing to sit back and he was willing to go against those beliefs and philosophies that he had so strongly stood by across the season. So that showed some signs of optimism. What he'll do in the next few weeks at Forest will be very, very interesting. Whether he'll go back to type and play that crazily high line and gung-ho approach with the emphasis on goals, which of course is exciting and fun to watch, but leaves you massively vulnerable, or whether he will take some things from that final, for example, where he showed some pragmatism and was able to and willing to adapt his philosophy and strategy.
Charlie, which side of Ange Postecoglou will we see?
Well, for me, the best thing about Ange Postecoglou is the side of him being really good in press conferences. It's great TV, great radio for us. My colleagues on the newspapers, I think they really enjoyed his time at Tottenham, and they had some good conversations. Sometimes they were difficult, but he was always honest. And there are one or two managers in the Premier League that I think are a bit dull. and really hard work. So let's celebrate a manager there every time you go to a press conference. So the journalists in the East Midlands now, they'll be going to Postecoglou's press conference. His first one will be tomorrow. Today was a video interview, wasn't it? So the press conference with all the media tomorrow. It'll be fascinating, and that's what sometimes he spoke from the heart. I think a lot of the time at Tottenham, he was honest, maybe sometimes too honest, and it'd be really interesting how this relationship. What's going to be like with Marinakis? It's going to be intriguing. Very different type of manager, and to what they had before, both in terms of personality and style of play. I really hope he succeeds at Nottingham Forest for the fans, because it's a brilliant football club. Not been a huge fan of Marinakis, the way he's behaved at times, but yeah, it's good to have him back in the Premier League.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the characters, isn't he, in terms of the managers in the Premier League. Ihsan, what did you make, though, of the way that Marinakis and Forest handled the departure of Nuno? Because Postecoglou came in pretty quickly after it was announced that Nuno was leaving.
I thought it was very harsh. On one end, he has put his money where his mouth is, so he can do what he wants. He's spent £150 million in this summer window, which shows proper and sheer backing, but the way it all unfolded with Nuno leaves a bit to be desired. The fact that he took Forest from 17th to European football for the first time in 30 years at the club, it seemed like he deserved a bit more than the way it all unfolded. Of course, John Percy for the Telegraph did a piece recently which detailed the fallout behind the scenes, and he talks about the fallout with Edu, the global head of football, which I found quite surprising. I've come across Edu a few times whilst covering Arsenal, and one of his assets is he's more of a schmoozer. He's a very charming man. He's able to get along with a wide spectrum of people. So how Nuno and his relationship deteriorated, that surprised me, but that's history now, and it's now and from now on.
It is a bold new era for Forest. OK, let's go to the back of the Star, where they've pictured Alexander Isak training with his new Liverpool teammates for the very first time. Ihsan, do we expect to see him make his debut against Burnley for his new club? And if so, where might he fit into that starting 11?
I'm sure he'll definitely be in contention. Liverpool put a social media video out today where Isak's just bundling in goals from all manner of angles and sitting down his fellow defender, who definitely will be in contention for that match. As to where he fits into the front line, it's a compelling case. You've got obviously Hugo Ekitike up top there. You've got Salah on the wing. You've got Gakpo. There's so many, and obviously Wirtz in behind. There's so many options there. But after spending £125 million on Isak and the saga that all entailed, they will obviously find a way to squeeze him in there. He'll be a pivotal part of that team, as we've seen with Newcastle. Goals are guaranteed. So Liverpool's attack's already fearsome as it is. Adding him to it, it's a frightening thought for many teams across the league.
Honestly, but as a neutral, cannot wait to see what he does in a Liverpool jersey. OK, let's now turn our attentions then to the so-called Drug Olympics. You can see here on the back of the Telegraph, Ben Proud has become the first British Olympian to join the Drug Olympics. Ihsan, what do you make of this? Because, I mean, is it time for us to have perhaps a transparent and an adult conversation? Because the Olympics isn't 100% clean. We know that. So at least the Enhanced Games is honest about what it is.
I'm contrary to that. I think it's an absolute farce. I think Ben Proud should definitely not be proud about this move. It surprises me. He's an Olympian that won silver in Paris, and he's now going to tarnish that and his whole career over joining this for monetary gain. And not only is it obviously promoting taking illegal substances, it opens a door. Where does the line end with a competition like this. There's no drug testing involved. There's the room to, as I say, take performance enhancing substances, which on the face of it is, no matter their claims of that it'll be medically tested and safe and whatnot, there's always going to be that margin for not only abusing the athlete's body, but also promoting drugs in sport, which is already a rife topic of matter as it is. So, yeah, I think it's a terrible, terrible look for for athletics, and it's a poor decision by Ben Proud for sure.
OK, Charlie, you've got about 10 seconds here, but your thoughts on this. And I think what's been missed is that the fact that illegal drugs are still not allowed as part of the enhanced games. But what do you make of this? 10 seconds.
His quote is, "It's the chance to chase the outer edge of human potential with the tools possible of our time." That's what he said. What a load of nonsense.
OK, I don't think our guests tonight are up for the enhanced games. Ihsan, Charlie, thank you for your thoughts tonight on Back Pages. If you missed any of the show, there's another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. The show's also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again on Thursday night. Guests will be Charlotte Dunker and John Cross. Coming next, Ange Postecoglou speaks for the first time since becoming Forest boss.